He thought he was just offering a ride to a stranger on a rainy road. But when she softly whispered his childhood nickname, his hands froze on the wheel. She didn't just know him. She raised him once. Ayaan didn't usually stop. His driver handled the roads, his meetings filled the hours, and his world was tightly scheduled down to the minute. But that afternoon, as the rain poured over the dusty hill highway, he saw her, a woman, soaked, struggling to keep an old shawl over her head, her thumb half raised with hesitation. Something made him stop. He lowered his window. "Need a lift, Amma?" She looked up, and for a second her tired eyes widened. "Beta?" He smiled politely, ready to dismiss it as a stranger's guess, until she leaned forward, peered into his eyes, and said it. "Chintu?" The name hit him like a punch to the chest. No one had called him that in 20 years. He blinked. "How do you know that?" She clutched her shawl, her lip trembling slightly. "I used to rock you to sleep in the servants' quarters. You'd ask for the story about the moon and the mango tree every single night." Ayaan's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. "Kamla? Kamla Didi?" She nodded, eyes wet now. "You were so little. You used to wrap your arms around my neck and beg me not to leave when the stories ended." He quickly unlocked the door. "Please, get in." She climbed in slowly, carefully, like she didn't want to ruin the seat. But Ayaan wasn't watching the rain anymore. He was staring at the woman who once held his nightmares away with her voice. And somehow, even after all these years, remembered every piece of the boy he used to be. The silence in the car was soft but heavy, the kind that carried years tucked between unspoken words. Ayaan drove slowly now, the wipers clearing a path through the rain, but his thoughts were miles behind. Back in the house where Kamla used to tuck him in, hum lullabies, and gently run her fingers through his hair when he couldn't sleep. "You disappeared," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "One day you were just gone." Kamla gave a tired smile, looking out the window. "Your family let most of us go when your father's company hit trouble. I packed quietly. Didn't want you to see me leave." He clenched his jaw. "I was only 10, but I looked for you, asked the guards, even cried for days when no one told me anything." She turned to him gently. "I heard. But what was I going to say? That I had to leave because they couldn't pay me anymore? That I was no longer part of your story?" Ayaan swallowed hard. "You were always a part of my story, always." Kamla's hands fidgeted with the end of her shawl. "Life moved fast after that. I took care of other children, cleaned houses, and now I do stitching jobs in the village, enough to get by." "Is there anyone with you?" he asked. She shook her head. "No family left, just me and my sewing machine. But I'm not complaining, Beta. I've had good years, and I still remember your voice shouting, 'One more story, Didi, please.'" She laughed softly. He smiled, but his chest ached. "I remember every single one." She looked at him now, really looked. "You've grown up into someone important." "I've grown up," he said, "but the most important part of me still lives in your stories." Kamla blinked quickly, her voice shaking. "I never thought I'd see you again, Chintu." He pulled the car over near a quiet roadside shelter, turned off the engine, and looked her straight in the eyes. "You're not going back to stitching alone in that village." She stared at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're coming with me. You're going home." Kamla's lips parted, stunned. "Beta, I can't." "You already did once," he said, his voice steady. "Now it's my turn to bring you back where you belong." Kamla stared at him, hands trembling in her lap. "Ayaan, I'm just a poor woman now. I have nothing. No name, no family, no place in your world." He reached across gently, placing his hand over hers. You were my world, Didi. When everyone was too busy or too cold, it was your arms I ran into. You gave me more family than blood ever did. She looked down, overwhelmed. But look at you now. Your clothes, your car, your life. I wouldn't even know how to fit into that. Ayaan smiled softly. You don't have to fit in. You already belong. He started the engine again, turning the car around, heading away from the direction she had been walking. I'm taking you home, to my house. There's a guest room bigger than your old one. A garden just like the one you used to sneak me mangoes from. Kamla laughed, a single tear rolling down her cheek. You still remember that? I remember everything. You made bedtime the safest part of my childhood. As the car approached the city lights, Kamla grew quieter, the silence filled now with disbelief. What will people say? She asked. They'll say a rich man brought his mother home, Ayaan replied. And if they don't, let them talk. That night, Kamla stepped into Ayaan's house, now a grand estate, filled with light, art, and silence. But when she walked through the doors, something shifted. The silence finally had warmth. He showed her to the guest room, which she hesitated to enter. It's too much, she whispered. It's just enough, he said, guiding her in. That night, Ayaan didn't attend his business dinner. Instead, he sat at her feet on the carpet, his head resting against the side of her chair. And in the same voice that once lulled a small boy to sleep, Kamla began. Once upon a time, under a mango tree, the next morning, sunlight streamed through the wide windows, casting a golden glow over everything Kamla touched. Her folded shawl on the bed, the fresh flowers Ayaan had placed beside her, and the cup of chai he brought up himself. Special, he said proudly. Just how you made it for me. Extra ginger. Kamla took a sip, smiling. Close, but not quite, she teased. He chuckled, sitting beside her like he had years ago, barefoot and comfortable. Then you'll have to teach me again? That day, Ayaan made calls, important ones. He arranged full-time care for Kamla, hired a nurse not just to check her health, but to treat her with the dignity she had always given others. He set up a small trust in her name, one that would fund education for underprivileged children cared for by domestic workers. Children like me, he said, who grow up in someone else's arms while the world looks the other way. Kamla tried to protest, tried to tell him it was too much. But Ayaan stopped her gently. This isn't charity. This is honor. This is me finally giving a name to everything you gave in silence. In the weeks that followed, guests at his home were surprised to see a humble woman in a cotton sari sitting at the head of the dining table. When asked who she was, Ayaan always answered the same. She's the voice that taught me right from wrong. She's the reason I know what love feels like. She's my bedtime story. One evening, during a fundraiser gala, Ayaan took the stage. But instead of talking about profits or expansion, he told the room about a woman who used to hum lullabies to a forgotten child who never once asked for recognition, only love. He ended with this. I may have built towers, brands, and wealth, but the richest part of me was raised on a floor mattress beside a woman who had nothing, and yet gave me everything. The room rose to a quiet, emotional standing ovation, and Kamla, sitting in the front row, wiped a tear from her cheek, not because of the crowd or the cameras, but because her Chintu had come back. Not as a boy who needed a story to fall asleep, but as a man who had become one worth telling. If this story touched you, share it forward. Because sometimes, the quietest love we receive becomes the loudest legacy we leave. Love.